Out here, the highway never really ends. It just trades one silence for another. Every few hundred miles, there's a rest stop, a place to stretch your legs, wash your hands, maybe look at yourself under a light that's too honest. But sometimes, the mirror looks back. And sometimes, it doesn't want a reflection. It wants the truth. This is Story 1, The Mirror That Wants the Truth. By the time Aiden pulled off at exit 43, his windshield looked like a Jackson Pollock dead bug smacked flat by the interstate's breath. The rest stop squatted beyond the sodium lights like a ship run aground. 2 vending bays, a picnic pavilion, and a low cinder block building with the universal promise of relief. Restrooms glowing in battered blue letters. He texted the group chat. 5 minutes. My bladder's in hospice. No read receipts. It had been 3 states since anyone responded anyway. The restroom smelled like lemon cleaner fighting a losing battle against a mop bucket of secrets. 2 urinals, 2 stalls, and a length of mirror clouded at the edges like frost-bitten glass. Aiden's reflection wavered a little, as if the mirror were breathing. He blamed the road. He was 22, tired, and running on a gas station burrito that seemed to be negotiating a hostile takeover of his intestines. He finished, zipped, and went to wash up. The faucet coughed. The mirror yawned him back. Pale, smudged eyeliner, hoodie with a cracked band logo, the tiny crescent moon tattoo behind his ear that his mom still pretended not to see. He reached for the door. It didn't open. Aiden put his shoulder into it, then both hands. The deadbolt was retracted. The handle turned. The thing simply didn't move. Like the metal had decided, quietly and inexorably, to be wall instead of door. "Hey," he called. His voice boomed in tile. Occupied and trapped." The mirror fogged. Not steam words. The condensation swept into letters as if an invisible finger were writing from the other side. "Tell the truth." Aiden laughed, then regretted it. He tried to pull his phone. The screen was a frozen grid of pixels, low battery icons stuck at 12% like a taunt. He turned back to the mirror. About what? The glass breathed a new line. Start small. Your name. He thought of 10 years of usernames, of handles and bios carefully curated into someone braver than he was. Aiden, he said. Again, Aiden Parker. Again, he knew what it wanted. I used to be Ashley. Before I left home. The lights hummed. The door didn't budge. Okay, he said. So it's that kind of haunted bathroom. The mirror spelled. Why did you leave? Aiden's throat tightened. He pictured the way his dad's jaw had set like poured concrete the night he'd cut his hair. The quiet sit down by the kitchen sink, his mother's hands busy with dishwater. Everything slippery that wasn't being said. College, he offered. Lie. Try again. Because I couldn't breathe, he said. Because they said they loved me, but only the version they knew. Because love that needs you to be smaller is a slow kill. The fluorescent light shivered once, like they'd heard. The door shifted half a centimeter. Hope bloomed. He tugged. Nothing. Keep going. He swallowed. His chest felt hollowed with a spoon. Fine. I left because I was scared if I stayed I'd end up like the boys who nodded along, who dimmed themselves into wallpaper and called it maturity. The door didn't move. Is this a therapy copay? Do I get a receipt? He started to shake because humor was empty calories when your body knew it was trapped. Tell me what you did. Aiden's stomach dropped. There were things. The late night DM he hadn't responded to. The friend he ghosted when the friend got sad enough to be work. The borrowed money. The lie to the guy he'd been seeing about why he couldn't meet the friends that one time. His thumbs twinned on the steering wheel, tapping anxiously in his mind. What category? His voice cracked. There's a lot of subfolders. The thing you keep rehearsing excuses for. He closed his eyes. He saw the face immediately. Arizona gas station, summer job, freckles like constellations. Aiden had told him, months later, that moving was for school. It was, mostly. He had not said the part about leaving because Sam got too close to the soft parts. I broke up with someone through a song, Aiden said. Lie. It was a playlist. It was stupid. I was stupid. Lie. Okay, he snapped. I said I'd call and didn't. I let him talk to my voicemail for a week. I crossed the state line and blocked him because it was easier to be the version who leaves than the one who stays and tries. The door thunked. Another centimeter. He yanked. Still locked in. What are you afraid of right now? That you're not a ghost story. That you're me. He let the words spill, acid-rich. That I make rooms not let me out. That if I don't confess to the mirror, I'm the mirror. Everyone sees a version. They can never touch me. And I call that safety. He laughed hoarsely. I post about honesty and healing and hashtag the hell out of it. And I keep this freighted little core of me vacuum sealed. Because if someone opens it and finds it small, what am I then? A boy with bad hair and worse apologies. The mirror didn't write for a moment. He thought of throat mics and body cams, of the recorded self, the curated vulnerability of 20-somethings who knew how to get past the algorithm. He thought of the road out there, the kind with bright lines that told you exactly which part of the world you owned. Is any of that brave? He asked the glass. Truth isn't brave. It's the only door. He flinched. You're very fortune cookie for a haunted sink. You haven't told me the thing. The thing. He pushed his fists into his hoodie pocket and found the folded photo he still carried out of habit, the holiday Polaroid, where his mother's smile was a zipper. He hadn't shown it to anyone. He hadn't told anyone the precise flavor of grief. Not for the house, or the old bedroom, or the cracked sidewalk he'd skinned both knees on, but for the version of his mom who would never call him by his name. I hate them for making me pick between breathing and belonging, he whispered. The tile magnified it, and I hate myself for not giving them more time. For not being patient enough to let love get clumsy first. The mirror fogged once more. Call your mother. He almost said he couldn't. He almost said the service was bad. But his phone buzzed, screen blinking alive like a resuscitated fish. Mom sat at the top of his recent calls. He hadn't saved it like that. On instinct, he pressed. It rang once, twice. He let his stomach pitch. On the third ring, the door gave way. A sudden draft pushed his hoodie back like a pair of hands, and Aiden stumbled into the night, open mouth in surprise, phone pressed to his ear like an icon. Hello, came the voice. It had the tremor of an earthquake after a long stillness. Ashley, Aiden, choked. The orange sodium light painted the parking spaces like old bruises. Somewhere, a truck exhaled. He watched his reflection in the dark window of the building. A boy holding a phone and a new thing, raw and toothy, crawling awake in his chest. It's Aiden, he said, and the word landed like a key in a lock. Hi, Mom. The mirror behind him fogged once, briefly. If he had turned, he would have seen the letters, soft as breath on glass. There you are. The call lasted 6 minutes. It wasn't good. It wasn't disaster. It was a beginning, which is the scariest thing a door can be. When he hung up and got back into his car, the night was a little wider, and the highway beyond, exit 43, shone like a river someone had peeled the skin back from. He drove, and for once, the version of him at the wheel was the same one that answered when he said his name out loud. Behind him, the restroom mirror cleared, and the door clicked shut. Waiting, listening. Story 2. Carbonated Nostalgia. Maya and Jace hit the rest stop at 2:14 a.m. The world compressed into a tunnel of headlights and wet asphalt. The vending machines along the wall hummed like metallic bees. One of them was new. Taller, matte black, with a screen where a price list should be. In friendly neon font it read, "What do you miss? Marketing team needs a raise." Jace snorted, digging coins from a pocket like a raccoon. Maya hadn't been back to her childhood house since her dad sold it. She was 25 and on a road trip to pretend that being 25 didn't feel like kneeling in a tidal pool watching waves choose which part of you to take. "I miss when gas was $2, she said. The screen blinked. Insert payment. "How much for 2016, she joked, but her fingers were already offering up a $5 bill. The machine sucked it down with a burp. The selection pad lit a keyboard. She typed, "Lemon icy from Sam's Market." A whir, a thud. The spiral rotated and dropped a paper cup with the exact blue logo from Sam's Market, sticky with frost. Maya stared. The cup was cold. The lemon icy was colder. The first sip detonated on her tongue. Chemically bright, liquid childhood. For 1 second she was 12 again, barefoot on sunburned sidewalks, her dad's laugh bouncing like a thrown ball. Chase's eyebrows climbed almost off his face. "Yo." "My turn," he said, feeding a 10. He typed, "Sony Discman, silver," even though it skips. The machine coughed up a scuffed Discman, complete with a cracked hinge and a faded sticker that read, "This machine breaks hearts. courtesy of a sophomore year phase. Jace looked like he'd been hit with a flashlight in the dark. Disbelief caught. How? He breathed. The screen pulsed. What else do you miss? They took turns. The machine became a seance. A VHS copy of Spirited Away with a Blockbuster sticker. A shoelace from Maya's first pair of soccer cleats. Jace's grandfather's Zippo lighter, the case etched with a tiny anchor. It felt like a magic trick designed for exhausted millennials who used to think the future was a door you kicked open and discovered a room full of candy. The $40 limit came and went. They started paying with their phones. The machine accepted tap to pay like a confessional takes breath. The screen flickered. One memory, exact price. Maya's heart hiccuped. Do not, Jay said. He'd heard the tremor she tried to stuff into a pocket. We're not. This is how horror movies start. This is how nostalgia apps start, she deflected. But the slot where bills disappeared looked like a mouth, and she wondered what kind of appetite it had. She typed, the way Dad's voice sounded when he called me kiddo. The screen glitched. The price revealed itself. $12.99. She laughed, a little strangled. That's morbidly reasonable. Jay stepped in front of her. Stop. Dude, it's a gimmick. It's probably a scripted audio file they pieced from metadata in the cloud. My phone is basically a snitch. But her hands had already moved. Her Apple Pay dinged. The machine shuddered. In the drop tray, something rested that wasn't an object. It looked like heat distortion, a fold in the air. When she picked it up, the skin of the world ripple tremored. She closed her eyes. Kiddo, her dad said, right in her ear. Not a recording. It carried the weight of a late Sunday morning, the rustle of cereal boxes, the slap of a newspaper on the table. The word was a room, and she was inside it, safe, gravity adjusted. When she opened her eyes, she was crying. Jace held her while not quite touching her, arms hovering, as if the memory were a fragile animal that might bite. I'm okay, she said, wiping her face on her sleeve. The machine wasn't finished. Exchange successful. Exchange? Jace echoed. What did you pay with? On Maya's phone, a notification. Face ID, reset required. Her Photos app lagged. When it opened, the album labeled Dad had fewer thumbnails. She scrolled harder, nauseous. What did you take? She whispered. To the machine. To the hole in the world where vending spirals clutched inventory. Equals swap, the screen wrote. Past for past. Jace stabbed the cancel button like it had insulted him. We're leaving. Maya's mouth was full of pennies. One more, she said, because addiction is often small and sounds like the voice you miss. Just one. He grabbed her wrist. We can't pay with pieces of you. She thought of the apartment she couldn't afford unless she kept pretending to love a job that was slowly turning her into a knife. She thought of the lie she had told herself in college that if she was excellent at everything, the world would meet her halfway. She thought of the ache that sat between her shoulder blades like a folded chair that never unfolded. What if I traded the wrong stuff already? She said. What if all this time, the payment's been taken out, whether I used the machine or not? The screen noticed her, the way a predator notices the slow one in the herd. Last call. Limited inventory. Her hands shook so hard she almost dropped the phone. She typed, the 18th of December 2020, sitting in Mom's driveway in the snow, deciding whether to go inside and tell her he was gone. The machine's price clicked up like a gas pump, $49.99. Jace wasn't breathing. The night around them was the inside of a held breath. The interstate whispered beyond the trees, trading trucks through the dark like stories. Don't, he said. A plea now. You'll forget the decision. It'll start editing you. The machine doesn't know what to keep sacred. Maya stared at the screen. Counting was a comfort. She could buy groceries for a week with $50 if she was careful. She couldn't buy a reason to have tried that winter, to have walked up the shoveled steps and chosen to be the person who delivered news like a wrecking ball. She had gone in, that night. She had said the words. She had watched something in her mother go still, like a winter field under ice. The machine hummed. She lowered the phone. No, she said, like a password. No deal. The screen dimmed. The machine's hum cooled to a purr. They gathered their weird loot in frantic armfuls and jammed it into the back seat, siphoning off laughter like adrenaline. Jay started the car. The heater sputtered dragon breath into the cold. Before they pulled out, Maya rolled the window down, just enough to stick the paper cup out and pour the last of the lemon icy into the gravel. It glittered briefly under the sodium light, and then was just meltwater. What are you doing? Jace asked. Making room, she said. for things that haven't happened yet. She powered her phone back on. The album still had gaps. She looked out across the lot, where the vending machine screen glowed softly like a lighthouse for the lost. Behind the glass, the spirals turned, slow, restocking themselves, waiting for the next tired person who missed something enough to feed a hunger with another hunger and call it even. Story 3. 10 minutes ahead. Lonnie worked the graveyard shift because he liked quiet more than money and because the highway felt honest at 3 a.m. He was 34, with a buzz cut he'd kept since high school and a habit of collecting lighters he never used. The rest stop security room was really a closet with a desk in it, outfitted with a CCTV. 12 feeds on one aging monitor, each window labeled in smeary Sharpie: North Lot, South Lot, Shop, Rear Alley, Bathroom Hall, Pavilion. At 2:47 a.m., the North Lot camera stuttered. The image smeared, snapped, and then came back with a timestamp that said 2:57 a.m. Lonnie frowned and tapped the side of the monitor like it owed him rent. In the North Lot feed, a silver Honda pulled in. A girl stepped out, college age, baggy sweatshirt, hair in a braid. She checked her phone, shoved it in a pocket, and started toward the building. Lonnie glanced at the wall clock. 2:48. When he looked back at the monitor, the girl in the feed was 10 minutes into the future, pushing the restroom door with a shoulder, one hand full of keys. The picture flared white for a second, and Lonnie saw the exterior of the bathroom. The bathroom door opened before it should have. He stood so fast his chair shot backward and hit the mop bucket. The monitor clicked to a new angle. Rear alley. Timestamp. 2:58. The janitor, Ron, propped the staff door open with a cinder brick and smoke next to the dumpsters, a habit he swore he'd quit every Monday. A shadow peeled off the wall behind him. Lonnie didn't wait to label the dread rushing through him. He grabbed the flashlight and the ring of keys, his heart a butcher shop mallet in his chest. The hallway was cold enough to make his teeth ache. He hit the rear door at 2:49. Ron. He barked, as if tone could shove the future back into place. Ron blinked at him. "You good, Chief?" "Inside," Lonnie said. He was not a man who put exclamation points on things. He did now. Inside now, Ron, who had been a 2-pack a day since '98, regarded Lonnie's face and decided to listen. They stepped through the door, and the cinder brick clattered as Lonnie kicked it away. The door thunked shut like a heartbeat. Behind it, the alley lay as he'd left it, an empty rectangle of night, innocent as a knife in a drawer. "What's going on?" Ron asked. Lonnie's mouth felt full of cotton. "Camera glitch," he said, playing ahead. "Like football?" Ron smirked. "Like God pressed fast forward," Lonnie said, and immediately regretted giving the fear shape. He jogged to the lobby. The North Lot was a model train tableau through the glass, miniature cars and tiny sodium trees. No silver Honda yet. He watched the clock. At 2:57, it pulled in like it had been cued. The girl got out, shoulders hunched against the cold. Lonnie hit the door, stepped into the night, and said, "Miss?" in a voice pitched politely and non-threatening. Protector's cadence, the one he'd learned from a decade of coaxing drunk people toward safety. She froze, hand in her pocket, eyes wide. "Do I know you?" "Not yet," he said. "There's a..." He stopped. He couldn't say monster. He wasn't sure what the rules of this were. "The bathroom's closed. Water main. Use the family restroom by the back." The girl's mouth flattened. "I've been driving for 6 hours, man." "Family restroom," Lonnie repeated, willing her to believe. He walked her down the hall. As they passed the women's room, a cold draft slid across his neck like someone tasting him. The girl shuddered. "What was that?" she whispered. "Old building," he lied, and opened the alternate door with his master key. Fluorescent lights hummed. The mirror was fogged for no reason. He kept the door propped with his foot and stood like a bouncer. When she was done, he walked her back, keeping her on the building side of the hall like he could angle her away from currents he couldn't see. "Thanks," she said in the lot, and climbed into her Honda and drove away at exactly 3:07. Back in the security closet, the monitor stuttered again. Rear alley. Timestamp. 3:17. Ron stepped out to smoke. The shadow unpeeled. Patient. Lonnie swallowed. He tried to be rational. If the cameras were showing him 10 minutes ahead, he could fix things 10 minutes before they broke. He could preempt them. It would be like redlining emergency calls. He could be the guy in the chair who saved people. It worked for 3 nights. He warned a trucker to move before a delivery semi cut a corner and ground its metal bumper into the space it would have occupied. He walked a whimpering dog around the pavilion twice while a swarm of hornets went unharmed into the trash can, where the dog had stuck its nose in the other timeline. He turned off the women's room lights. The news never reported anything. There were no missing people. There were no bodies in the woods. It made him hate the quiet after his shift, the birdsong on the other side of a night he had spent holding the line. On the fourth night, the monitor pulled an old trick. Shop camera, 253 jumped to 303. A man in a pilled hoodie shoplifted beef jerky. Lonnie sighed with relief. A mundane sin. He walked out to intercept it, rehearsing the soft, firm speech about consequences. That's when he noticed the other feeds were out of sync. The exterior bathroom hall jumped to 304, then 308. Pavilion went ahead and then backed like a tide. He remembered the first time his dad had let him drive. The way the steering wheel went light in his hands once they hit 55, as if the car had its own opinions. The shoplifter stuffed jerky in his sleeve. At exactly 303, Lonnie laid a hand on his arm and said, "Don't make me do paperwork tonight, man." The guy flinched and dropped the jerky. His eyes were blown pupils. He mumbled an apology and scuttled out. Lonnie returned to the closet. Every feed was now 10 minutes ahead. He watched himself on South Lot walk across the screen 10 minutes into his future. The version of him on the monitor glanced at the camera and then looked away, as if trying not to make a habit of talking to a mirror. He felt the part of his brain that had always kept the night organized cars in motion rest stop a bubble of light begin to fray. He knew how to be early. He did not know how to be doubled. At 3:11 or 3:21, on the monitors, the girl with the braid came back. Not the same girl, he thought, irrationally. The universe wouldn't loop someone just to make a point. But she had the same sweatshirt, the same weary posture. The exterior bathroom hall feed showed the door swinging open. Lonnie stood up, then sat again, then stood. His chair wheeled backwards and hit the mop bucket again. Water sloshed onto the floor like a small failure. He was about to go run the script redirect, family restroom, guard the door when the monitor showed a newer thing. His own face, 10 minutes hence, pale white in the glass, as the girl scrubbed her hands like she could wash off a whole day. He didn't like what future him looked like. He looked desperate. And behind him in the reflection was something tall and jointed emerging from the ceiling tiles like a spider deciding spaces belonged to it. Lonnie ran. He met the girl at the door, breathless. "Maintenance," he said. "Use the family." She shoved past him. "If I don't pee now, I will sue the state." He followed her in, against every instinct about boundaries he'd ever learned. The air was a meat locker. The mirror had gone black, not off, not reflective, but black, the color of the underside of an interstate overpass at 4 a.m., when the wind sounds like a train you can't see. "Ma'am," he said, and something in his voice made him sound like his own dad. She turned, open-mouthed, to yell at him, and that's when the ceiling vent skittered, not the metal, the space inside it. Lonnie didn't think. He grabbed her arm and yanked her back just as a length of slick, jointed something unfolded from the vent and slammed into the sink where her head had been. Porcelain exploded like a thrown plate. Water gazered from a pipe. The thing smelled like wet newspaper and old teeth. They ran. The hall behind them filled with a sound like a child crawling too fast. Lonnie fumbled the master key into the family restroom and shoved her through, slamming the door and bracing it with his body. "Is this a prank?" she gasped, shaking. "I wish." The door flexed once, as if pressed from the other side by a polite but insistent palm, and then the pressure disappeared, like the thing had remembered an appointment. The building quieted. The water in the broken sink hissed behind the wall like an endless whisper. After a time, he walked her out. He expected her to ask questions. She didn't. The world gave people the bare minimum they needed to keep moving. That was mercy or cruelty depending on the day. Back in the closet, the monitors were back to normal. He watched himself walk back to the chair and sit. He watched himself rub the scar on his left thumb, except he didn't have a scar there. He looked down. There, it was new, small, pink, as if something with serrated edges had gotten curious. From then on, Lonnie stopped using the feeds to save people 10 minutes ahead. He started using them to save himself 10 minutes behind. He watched carefully for what he'd already survived, then mimicked it backward. Stand here, not there. Move the janitor's cart 3 inches left. Restock the paper towels to make the bathroom look less hungry. The world divided into things he could know and things he could bear. On his nights off, He slept with the TV on to keep time occupied while he wasn't using it. He could not save everyone 10 minutes ahead, but he could pick his moment. The highway, for once, felt like it was heading somewhere he recognized. Story 4. The truck with the same parking dent. Harper and Eli were fighting about something small because the big things were too unwieldy to pick up. The rest stop off mile marker 117 was full of the glow of semi-trailers. Long boxes breathing their own diesel weather. Harper pulled into a spot beneath a light that buzzed like a determined insect. The clock on the dashboard said 1:03 a.m. Bathroom, Eli said, already unbuckling. I'll get snacks, Harper said, performing normal like an exorcism. They met back at the car with plastic sacks of sugar and salt. The night felt like you could peel it. The highway hummed like a lullaby your grandma swears is comforting even though it's in a minor key. A truck pulled in next to them. Boxy, old, paint oxidized to a chalky matte. A dent on the passenger side door like someone had leaned a ladder badly, then decided to call it fate. It idled, ticking. Cute, Harper said. Creeper vibe. Eli nudged Harper with a shoulder. Stop narrating my fear like a podcast. They sat, unwrapped candy. The radio hissed. The clock ticked to 1:04. They chewed. The light above them flickered like it had a cough. A noise like someone slapped the license plate. Harper blinked. The radio rebooted and the clock read 1:03 again. Eli cussed softly. Did time just? The truck next to them was idling. Same dent. Same crooked rear-view mirror. Harper's heart rocked in her throat like a buoy in rough water. We did this, she said, and didn't know where the certainty came from. Say the next thing then, Eli dared. What do I say next? You told me to stop narrating your fear like a podcast. Eli's mouth dropped. He nudged Harper. Same pressure, same laugh like a hiccup on the same beat. The clock clicked. 1:04. The light flickered. The radio hissed and rebooted. 1:03. They learned the loop like a dance. It was about 60 seconds long if you counted with the wrist bones. They tried to break it. Get out of the car, run to the bathrooms, make it to the door before the radio reset. The music blipped, the knob was back in Harper's hand, the car doors closed, and the plastic sack of snacks regave its crinkle like a rehearsed line. Okay, Eli said, on loop 8 or 9. We just live here now. Harper dry laughed. At least there's candy. They mapped the perimeter. If they went more than 20 feet from the car, the loop yanked them by the belt loops back to the start. The truck next to them remained, constant as a math-proof, window-tinted dark enough to be its own weather. What happens if we talk to it? Eli asked. Harper swallowed. We? I mean you, obviously. They approached the truck on the next reset. Harper lifted a fist and knocked. The sound was hollow and too damp, like knocking on a watermelon. The window rolled down an inch. Radio static spilled out, but inside the static were words. Don't fight. Stay. Harper bent to the slot of darkness. Who are you? The static agreed with itself for a long moment. Then, you. They stumbled backward. The loop snapped. Reset. For a moment, Harper had the crisp, painful sense of the time between loops, like a pane of glass catching light before you remember it's there. They tried different scripts. They confessed old injuries at different seconds in the minute. Eli's job in another city. Harper's habit of making decisions for both of them and calling it leadership. They swapped seats. They started the car. They turned it off. Each time. 1:04 flicker, 1:03. On loop 20-something, Harper tried a different approach. If the truck is us, she said, then what if it needs us to stop pretending we don't know what we're going to say? Eli stared. So what? We improvise? We tell the truth, so the loop runs out of script. The clock ticked. Flicker. Reset. Harper took a breath that felt like changing lanes without a blinker. I don't want to move to Denver, she blurted. I was going to say yes, because it's a better job for you, and I thought that meant I was a better person. But I don't want to go. Eli's mouth opened and closed. The loop knit itself, impatient. The radio hissed. It almost reset, and then didn't. The minute stretched into 90 seconds, then 105, like taffy pulled by stubborn hands. I hate my job, Eli spit, like a confession. I hate the people in the office, and the way I'm good at something I don't care about because they clap. I thought moving would fix it. The truck next to them idled louder, like a throat clearing. Harper reached over the console. Eli's fingers met hers like someone who had been reaching but didn't know where to point their hands. The light above them steadied. "Okay," Harper said. "We'll figure it out here." "Here? Here?" Eli asked, a wry tilt. "This exact rest stop?" "Anywhere, but not lying about how hard it is." The radio warbled. The truck window rolled lower. In the driver's seat, something... It looked like a silhouette cut from a night sky and glued to the shape of a person. It turned toward them, and Harper saw her own face at a different angle, under a different kind of tired. "We got out," the static said, gentle. "We told the truth, and the world didn't end." "How long?" Eli asked. "How many loops?" "Enough to make us stop practicing the life we didn't want," the voice said, and the radio hiss lifted like a curtain. The clock read 1:05, then 1:06. The truck turned off. The dent on the passenger side door smoothed itself like a wrinkle under a palm. Harper laughed when she started to cry. They pulled out onto the highway like a zipper closing correctly for the first time in days, months, who knows. As they merged, Harper checked the rear view. The truck was still parked. For a second, she thought she saw two figures in the cab holding hands, and then the sodium light ate the image and gave back the night the way the night likes to be indifferent, enormous, full of places to rest, if you know how to say, out loud, why you're tired. Story 5. Occupancy. The storm rolled across the interstate like something big changing its mind. Harper's phone screamed the kind of alert you can't opt out of. Tornado warning. Seek shelter. The rest stop had a low building with a sign near the vending machines. Storm shelter basement. An arrow pointed down a metal staircase scabbed with rust. There were 6 of them down there when the door clanged and the wind hit the building like a truck. Harper. Different Harper. The world makes more than one. A man in a suit with his tie in his pocket. A teenage girl whose eyeliner had outlived a party. An elderly couple holding hands like a dock line. And a woman in a yellow raincoat carrying a toddler with a dinosaur hoodie. The shelter smelled like new concrete and old wet. Fluorescence hummed. The air had that too quiet oxygen of a submarine. A laminated sign on the wall listed rules. No smoking. Remain calm. Do not open door until all clear. A siren outside wound itself into a howl that sounded bored and furious. Basements are statistically safe, the suit man said, to no one and everyone. The teenage girl rolled her eyes and unlocked her phone to scroll a feed that wouldn't load without bars. There's no service, Sherlock. The toddler was the only one not pretending not to be scared. He stared at the drain in the middle of the floor like it had a story to tell. His dinosaur hood obscured half his face and made him look more like a creature that would survive this than the rest of them. The lights flickered and went steady. The door opened. No one had touched it. It swung inward with the slow gravity of a stage curtain. Wind rushed in, carrying rain that had been chewed into mist. The hallway beyond the door was knife gray and empty. Everyone looked at the sign as if it might update itself. Do not open door until all clear. The elderly woman, who had the posture of someone who had taught children to line up in hallways for decades, stepped forward. Close it, she said, voice a hush that sounded like you obeyed it. The suit man pushed. The door resisted. He grunted. The teenage girl added her shoulder. The woman in yellow shifted the toddler to the opposite hip and put her back into it like a mother whose body was now a sandbag. The door relented and latched with a sound that felt ceremonial. The lights hummed. They hummed a different note. Okay, Harper said. She tried for bright. It came out flat. Who's got a good mid-crisis story? The elderly man smiled with half his face. We met in a library, he said, nodding at his wife. She asked for a map and I told her she should get lost with me instead. That's a terrible line, Charles, his wife said, and the correction made the room feel human again. Want a snack? The teen asked the toddler, holding out a pack of gummy bears. The dinosaur hood nodded solemnly. The lights went out. Dark fell like a drop cloth. Someone's breath hitched into too fast. The siren outside swallowed itself, and the new hush rang. The emergency lights kicked on, the kind that make faces into crime scene photos. In their red glow, the room looked stranger, edges too sharp. The laminated rules reflected the red light and turned unreadable. The door handle jiggled. No one moved. Must be someone else seeking shelter, Harper said. But her voice shook, and the lie with it. Hello? Came a voice from the other side, too bright for a night where trees were probably standing sideways. I'm sorry to bother my kid. The woman in yellow's spine stiffened. Her toddler did not look at the door. He looked at Harper's phone. which was now showing bars where there had been none. A single notification appeared. All clear, 12:19. A.M. Harper flipped the screen to show the others. "We can go." The elderly woman shook her head. She pointed at an analog clock on the wall. It read 12:05. The hands ticked dutifully. "Which one do you trust more?" she asked softly. The voice at the door knocked, polite. "Please," it said. "Cold out here." "Ask what color the sky is," the teenage girl whispered, because TikTok had taught her some things you can probably use in the apocalypse. "What color is the sky?" Harper called. A beat. Then, "Wet." "Okay," the teen said, impressed. That was good. The door handle jiggled again. The toddler made a small sound that might have been words, or the memory of words. The woman in yellow bent to kiss the top of his dinosaur head and whispered, "Almost over." And the room tasted of rhetorical hope. Something scraped slowly along the length of the door, top to bottom, like a fingernail testing wood. It reached the bottom edge and tapped the threshold like a blind person with a cane, learning the room by sound. The elderly man, Charles, spoke without turning. "We are not alone down here," he said. And the tone was observational, not dramatic. "And that's the part that matters." The suit man laughed, a thin sound. "Sure. Us and the weather." "No," Charles said, and tilted his head toward the drain. The metal circle in the concrete had begun to tremble very slightly, a ripple like water under skin. There was no water. The puddle's edge that hadn't existed was now a ring. Harper stepped closer. The floor around the drain looked soft, like something underneath was breathing. "What kind of shelter has a drain?" the teen asked. "What are we draining?" "Water," Harper said, "because answers are better than honesty when the latter has teeth." The siren outside revved and died again, like a toy car that refused to hold a charge. Her phone pinged. Another all clear. Then another, each stamped with a slightly different time. 12:14, 12:22, 12:03. The notification shades stacked like a deck of cards. "Time isn't working," she said. The door opened a second time. It opened slow, and then all at once, a dark spill. The hall beyond now just a slide of weather. A shape filled the doorway that wasn't shaped like a person but wore the suggestion of one the way fog sometimes decides to have a shoulder. It paused on the threshold, polite. In the emergency red light, it had the color of a static TV. "Please," it said, using the mouth of a voice it had heard earlier. The syllables hung, almost sweet. The toddler pressed his face into his mother's shoulder, not a cry, an insistence. The elderly woman stepped forward, made small by age but steeped in the kind of authority you earn by being the person who knows where the flashlights are. "The sign says to remain calm," she said, as if putting the rules back in order would force compliance. The thing tilted its head. The gesture was careful, learning. Harper had the sudden, deranged thought that the shelter wasn't a room but an appetite that had taught itself doors and rules to get people to climb inside willingly. She had the newer, nastier thought that sometimes the safest place is only safe because it's where the danger likes to eat slowly. The drain pulsed. The toddler made the smallest possible fist. He touched his thumb to his forefinger like he was pinching something and held it up. The woman in yellow nodded, like she understood a language no one else did. She whispered, "A little," and then louder to the room. "We make ourselves small, and it passes." "Like grief," Charles said. "Like weather," his wife corrected, as if that distinction saved them from something. Harper's phone vibrated with a new alert. Door malfunction maintenance on the way. No source, no app tag, just a sentence, as if the building had decided to text. The suit man, stripped of all his tailored advantages, walked to the door. "I can't," he said, and the way he said "can't" had years compressed into it. As he reached for the door to pull it shut again, the thing at the threshold moved aside, gallant. The suit man shut it. It latched. The drain sighed. Harper exhaled in a rush she hadn't realized she was holding since fourth-grade tornado drills. The power came back with a click that felt like mercy. The fluorescence turned the emergency light off. The room reassembled into a place for waiting. The analog clock read 12:19. Outside, the siren ended in a descending moan, embarrassed of itself. "Is that the all clear?" the teen asked. She had mascara prints on her fingertips and looked fiercely beautiful in the way people are when they have decided to keep existing for one more hour. Harper opened the door. The hall was bright as a grocery store. Rain whispered against the building like a rumor finally losing interest. She stepped out, every muscle ready for a surprise that did not arrive. The others followed. They ascended the stairs and came up into a night rinsed clean. Puddles held the parking lot in duplicate. They stood under the awning like storm survivors in a movie, waiting for the credits to roll. No one spoke. Eventually, people peeled off toward their cars, their destinations, their lives that needed them. In the back of the lot, a storm drain burped. A piece of something like black plastic poked out and then was pulled back beneath, shy. Harper decided not to think about it. The woman in yellow buckled the toddler into the car seat and kissed his forehead. "Brave," she said. The elderly couple got into a sedan with a cracked dashboard and a bag of Werther's Originals in the console. The suit man took off his shoes and put them in the passenger seat as if his feet had been the part of him trying too hard. The teenage girl lit a single illegal cigarette, took one greedy pull, stamped it out, and smiled like a truce with herself. Harper walked back to the shelter door once, alone. She touched the metal, cool and uncomplaining. The laminated sign looked ordinary again. On impulse, she peeled the tape on a corner and slid her business card freelance photographer, number "You Are Real" in lowercase letters beneath the plastic. She didn't know why. She only knew that sometimes a room that eats people might also keep a treasure box. She wanted it to find that and hold it up to the light someday when the lights failed and it wondered about softness. As she turned away, a thread of cold air traced her ankle, curious but not hungry. The sky to the west was a bruise healing, the kind of dawn that makes you want pancakes. Harper got into her car and drove east, the highway opening like a book to a page she hadn't creased yet. In the rear view, the shelter door stayed shut, but not empty. Never empty.